Barbarian is a 2022 American horror thriller film written and directed by Zach Cregger in his solo screenwriting and directorial debut. A young woman arrives at her rental only to find it already occupied by a stranger. Despite her instincts, she chooses to stay the night, only to uncover that the real danger lies far beyond the unexpected guest. Alright, so I watched Barbarian, which is, like I mentioned before, Zach Cregger's directorial debut effort. I watched his sophomore effort, Weapons, like a couple days ago, and I loved that film. And of course, I'm kind of doing this backwards, but I was still intrigued to watch Barbarian, and it was good. I liked Barbarian as well. I think what Zach Cregger continues to do is he creates films that just completely stand out in this repetitive and sort of, it's kind of become a mundane horror genre. I guess as of recently, but like I know he's only made 2 movies, but he's like completely stood out. He makes these highly original storylines and he helms it with such creative direction. He's definitely one to look out for sure. But this film specifically, Barbarian, it is full of surprises. It subverts typical horror tropes with unexpected twists and tonal shifts that kept me engaged throughout. Similar to Weapons, Barbarian has comedic elements as well. It's more than just a horror film. It has, of course, thrills. It has mystery. It's separated into sort of different acts in a way. It feels like sort of you're following different characters, different storylines, similar to Weapons as well. Not necessarily as similar to that type of structure. But you it's like you follow different characters is what I'm saying. It's not just the same protagonist throughout. But I think the cast for this film, Barbarian, it's a smaller ensemble, but they deliver solid performances. Georgina Campbell, she's probably the primary protagonist you follow throughout. And then Bill Skarsgård, and then Justin Long as well. Those are probably the big 3. Apparently Justin Long, his role was originally offered to Zac Efron, but I think Zac Efron, he rejected the role or he dismissed it. I don't know, whenever that happens, and it was similar to Weapons as well, where there was a whole original cast for Weapons. They didn't necessarily reject the roles. They were planning to do those roles, but because of writer strikes and I don't know, because of delays or something, they ended up casting a whole different type of ensemble. But I don't know, whenever that happens, it just makes me appreciate the newer actors just more. I appreciated Josh Brolin's performance a lot more now, knowing that he could have been Pedro Pascal. And I appreciate Justin Long's performance a lot more, knowing that it could have been Zac Efron. Because I think in my mind, they just feel like a way better fit. Justin Long literally smashes this role out of the park. Alvin from Alvin and the Chipmunks does crazy work here. I have to watch some more of his films because he was brilliant in this. All the actors were, of course. But these performances, they just enhance the tension and the believability of the unfolding mystery. The story itself begins with a very suspenseful and eerie setup. You have this woman, the Georgina Campbell woman. She is arriving at a double-booked Airbnb, and that just quickly escalates into something far more sinister and far more complex. Apparently, the script began after Zach Cregger read this book he read Gavin de Becker's book, hopefully I pronounced that right, called The Gift of Fear. And basically what this was, it was a book that encouraged women to trust their intuition when confronted by dangerous men. And so Zach Cregger used that as a writing exercise that eventually turned into a longer film, Barbarian. You can definitely see remnants of that theme present throughout the entire film. The film tackles some pretty serious subjects about, sexual assaults and, women being victims and pretty, crazy stuff like that. But I think it doesn't, it's interesting. It tackles it in a way that doesn't feel like it's overindulging in that topic. Because at the end of the day, I really feel like this is just a great horror film. I never really felt like it was trying to send out a message, but I could totally see, it was a permeating theme throughout though. The story, even the synopsis I just read out, that's literally only less than half of what this film is actually about. It builds a strong, unsettling atmosphere that contributes to the overall impact that this film does have as a horror film. And yeah, I mean, while the narrative style itself is very bold and very unconventional, will say, and this is sort of like my biggest flaw for the film, certain scenes felt quite unnecessary and pretty disjointed, especially as we follow different characters' perspectives. And I don't know, to me, it sort of occasionally disrupted the flow and the pacing. Like, I would have liked other areas of the story to be explored in more detail, especially the villain, who's called the Mother. That's all I'll say. But like the mother's history, I would have liked to be a bit more explored. There is some like just very little background of how she came to be, but that doesn't really focus on the mutation aspect of it and like her evolution to become that thing. But yeah, and then there's also this flashback sequence that felt really ambiguous. Like, your mind really has to do a lot of the work of what you think is happening, which I don't mind. I love ambiguity, but it also just felt super ambiguous to the point where like my mind had to do so much work just to figure out these pieces. So maybe it requires another rewatch, but I'm not too sure. And what else? Yeah, I mean, oh, and then also there was this like, and I've searched this online as well, but there was like this shot of a toothbrush, an electric toothbrush on the floor. And it's crazy. Maybe it doesn't actually mean anything, but then I searched it up, and people have like different perceptions on it as well, and everybody else is just as confused because there's like these two camera shots. It's the exact same shot of this electric toothbrush on the floor. It's a toothbrush that Bill Skarsgård's character owns, I'm pretty sure. And I have no idea if it's meant to symbolize something or if it's meant to represent something. I had no clue. Like, I read somewhere maybe it just has to do with like, maybe the film is like thematically about like hygiene and how hygiene is important, or maybe it's just to show that someone lives there and it's just meant to be like a plot element and not anything else, nothing thematically more than that. But I don't know. It felt like it was meant to be something, but if it was, that's sort of like my flaw. Is like, if it was meant to be something more symbolic, I genuinely couldn't even get like a slight grasp on what it was meant to be. And I do dislike when filmmakers tend to be super symbolic to the point where it's just so ambiguous that there's not even a cohesive thing to tie them to the actual, like, there's nothing to even create because it's just so out of place. But yeah, I mean, that's sort of me being nitpicky, but overall, I did think it was a good film. I did enjoy watching it for sure. The ending also, I felt, it's like that last act felt a bit rushed, but it wasn't nothing like I had a huge problem with by any means. But yeah, I mean, the film itself is pretty short, an hour 42. I think Weapons was like obviously longer than 2 hours, maybe like closer to 2.5 hours. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna give Barbarian a 7 out of 10. Still enjoyed the film regardless. I don't think it's as good as Weapons. I think probably people will have different opinions for sure, but yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.